felt more important to try and understand how to use it for good and also protect our kids from all the bad stuff. Well, there's been a lot of discussion about this, what parents and teachers can do, with some schools opting to ban phones during lesson time and also some families introducing things like parental controls on their kids' devices. Well, for many, trying to navigate this space and do the right thing can be very challenging and a source of conflict in the household. As such, parents and experts are coming together tonight to talk about how we can best navigate Jersey's digital streets as a community. An event is taking place at St Heliers Town Hall from 7 till 9 with discussions from a data protection expert, a local doctor and a Jersey deputy head. Well, this has been organised by local childhood advocate and play champion Emily Jennings, who joins me live on the show. Hi Emily, how are you this morning?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So first of all, I just want you to tell me what made you want to put an event like this on.
Well, I guess as a community, more and more people are kind of coming forward and asking for help with navigating the online world for their children, but also more and more adults and young people who may have grown up with it are choosing to kind of opt out and go off grid at various points and kind of digital breaks, really.
Interesting. I think this is something that a lot of people are dealing with, even, going into later life, whether that be parents, teenagers, etc. I think a lot of people, digital detoxing has become a thing, hasn't it? So
Absolutely.
What would you say are the main challenges that you're hearing at the moment from parents that, potentially are facing when it comes to online harms for their children?
Well, I think the Children's Minister actually put it really well last week when he talked about not being able to unsee harmful content. Mm-hmm. And so once you've seen something, the cyber trauma that can cause is actually really hard to repair. So there is that. As a parent, you don't really ever want your child to come to harm. And we manage that. We take, managed risks. So whether that's letting them climb a tree or jump off a high wall, we manage those risks. But there are some risks now that parents are just not wanting their children to be exposed to. So whether that's a TikTok challenge that can go wrong or exposure to really harmful and extreme pornography that might be circulating on school WhatsApp groups or Snapchat groups. Yeah. So it's just becoming harder and harder to keep our children safe and to preserve their childhood.
Yeah, because there's so many loopholes as well digitally, speaking. There's only a certain amount of control that you can have over these things, and so there's ways in which the online world can, these content can actually be easily accessed, which is quite scary.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm a parent of 4 and I'm not very tech savvy, but even when I try to use parental controls, they're easily circumvented. And when I speak to kind of really tech savvy parents, and there are some amazing ones here that I've met, they lock their houses down in ways that I find incredible. But they really say the only way to keep our children safe is to lock down in this way, because actually every control is can be circumvented. So whether it's downloading VPNs, and all of this is so easily accessible, it just takes a quick Google search on downloading a VPN or getting around parental controls. And that how-to instruction is really too easily accessible to children, which really calls into question, how do we keep our children safe, and at what point do we put in those kind of controls?
Yeah. I mean, what have you heard from other children, I suppose? What have even your children said to you about this? Because it's a difficult thing, isn't it? Because, I think that kids don't necessarily, they know that we want the best for them, but there's a reason why these controls need to be put in place. It's really interesting hearing from children and hearing that a lot of teenagers in particular, we've been talking about this in the news, welcome these phone, breaks, these, little bans for short periods of time, because it's a way that they're not distracted. They're, away from all of that stuff, because the online world must be tricky to navigate for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think all self-regulation is tricky. So whether it's resisting the sweetie jar, the chocolate box, or just anything that we enjoy, we want to do more. And that's the role of dopamine, really. We are programmed to do more of what brings us pleasure. And when that pleasure becomes toxic or it's artificial, that's when the danger comes in, because we can't control ourselves. So, I mean, every family is different. And I think that's really the thing to remember. And every child is different. So some parents have to kind of lock the sweetie cupboard, or the snack cupboard, and others can have all of those things on display and their children don't touch it. And I think it's the same with devices. So some families really can have iPads and TV remotes just out, and their children will ask before going onto a device or to watch TV. And then other families, those devices need to be put in a lockbox, or the remotes need to be put in a lockbox. So I think it's trying to navigate that.
Do you think that it's sort of challenging to, you know, not have a unified approach from parents and schools? I mean, I suppose the point of these discussions and the one taking place later is to, you know, hopefully come together.
Yeah. I mean, I think public spaces and safe places like schools are the great equalizer for society. So as I just said, some families might have a lockbox for digital devices and or locked snack cupboards, and others don't. And that's their call in their own home. But for schools to give every child an equal opportunity to learn without distraction and play in real life without the distraction of dopamine flooding devices, we do need that kind of centralized policy that gives every child that opportunity to not be distracted by digital devices. And I particularly think about playgrounds, because we know that smartphones are highly addictive. Their touchscreens are incredibly rewarding. The material on them and the addictive algorithms that are pushed through social media are so addictive. It's very hard for teenagers to self-regulate, and adults as well, but teenagers without their developed prefrontal cortex and executive function, they really struggle to make those decisions. And that maturity comes at different stage within the teenage years. And to make it more equitable for everybody, having a playground where there are no digital devices and no smartphones means that all kids are given the opportunity to choose play and real life play. So we might need to invest in a few more play spaces and play kits for our school playgrounds, but that's certainly exciting for us all, an opportunity for children to get involved in their play environment.
And hopefully it will limit those conversations, you know, that children will be having with each other, you know, looking at that's their whole world, isn't it? That's what they know. And so what they're exposed to at that age, well, so-and-so's mum lets them use, you know, all of these conversations, as you say, if in a playground setting or a classroom setting, if every child isn't allowed a mobile device or whatever, then, you know, maybe that will limit those discussions.
Yeah, I mean, peer pressure is so hard to navigate for teenage years. And that whole comparison of, oh, I've got the latest iPhone. Oh, I can't believe you're still on the 12, or I don't even know what I'm on, but it's old. And that peer pressure is so hard for teens to navigate. So to remove that from playgrounds is, I mean, it's just such a win. And it just means that kids can be kids and not have to kind of go into that comparison of what tech have you got and what access have you got. And that's even without the sharing of risky and dangerous content, which we know also happens, as, you know, who's got the funniest video in a good sense, and who's got the scariest video or the most risky video. And that kind of sharing, and then also just airdrop sharing and cyber stalking and cyber trauma, it just takes all of those out of the equation. It means that kids have got that digital detox during the school day.
And you said before, you know, we were having this conversation that you're a parent of 4. And so I suppose, do you find that you've seen much change within this time? Are they different sort of ages?
Yeah.
Because I reflect, I mean, I'm not a parent, but I reflect on my own schooling, and I got a phone when I was about 10, but it wasn't a smartphone. And I've seen so much change since then from my nephews and my nieces, you know, like so much has changed. So I'm interested to hear from a parent now of, have you seen that change even with your own children's ages? Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's really what drove me to get involved in this, because my youngest is 10 and my eldest is 21 and a couple of teenagers in between.
Right.
So not just seeing kind of the parental stress really increase. So parents of younger children now are really stressed about trying to limit their children's exposure to harmful content and addictive digital devices. And the parents of my, that I was parenting with, my eldest, they weren't so stressed by this. So it's not just the children, but it's also the parental stress when it's hard enough to to parent in this age, but to navigate that as well. But for the children, certainly, at the early days of Snapchat, we were just dealing with disappearing messages, which could be bullying. But now, the amount of short form videos and harmful content that's pushed through addictive algorithms that are really favouring shocking content. They're not favouring content and promoting content that is kind of built for, or promoting human well-being, that they are pushing content that is shocking and harmful and violent and often misogynistic. And this is what we're dealing with. We're up against these powerful algorithms that are profit-driven, because they're maximizing user attention and user engagement rather than user well-being.
I mean, you're looking at this closely, and, you know, a part of this is, you know, welcoming these discussions tonight. But as a parent, is it scary?
Yes. Yeah, it really is. And actually, I'm speaking more and more to young people in their 20s who are worried about going on and having families of their own, and the idea of bringing up their children in this kind of environment. And so I really would urge everyone to come along tonight, whatever your age, as long as you're over 16, come along, because this is about a whole society approach. And these kind of changes and culture changes and cultural movements sometimes take time for momentum to build, although this one has been pretty quick. But anyone who is thinking about having children in the next 5 to 10 years, I would urge you to come along. And also grandparents, they have such a powerful role. And it was actually, you know, my mother saying to me, I'm really worried your children's engagement with us is dropping, and their ability to disengage from their devices. I'm worried they're kind of addicted. And it is often grandparents that sound the alarm and kind of go, something's just not right with young people these days.
And I think it's easily highlighted as well because of the stark difference in generations, because it's not typical or, you know, quote unquote normal for, you know, kids to be having devices and to be surrounded by tech in that way, especially if you go the older generations, of course. So they're going to be like, why do you want that for, you know? And I think that's really interesting what you're saying there. Often, you know, grandparents are, you know, the way for parents who may be working full time. They're relied upon, their, you know, babysitting, things like that, looking after the children, doing pickup. You know, that happens for a lot of families. And it's those first alarm bells that are ringing. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we know that play is a really crucial part of child development. And when that real life play is replaced by digital play, you just don't get the full sensory benefit. So real life play has that physical impact when you're jumping and you might be wrestling or performing or putting a show on. It's not just auditory and visual input. There's that physical input as well. And just it's a multi-sensory experience, whereas digital play is two-dimensional. And it's just not giving our children that breadth of sensory exposure that they really need to develop in a healthy way.
So I suppose finally, what are you hoping that will come out of these discussions today?
Oh, I mean, it's just brilliant to come together as a community, like all together. We've got 2 groups represented. We've got health professionals for safer screens and also smartphone-free childhood, and just many other individuals who are passionate about shaping society, but really kind of going, how is social media serving us? You know, in real life, people here are really lovely to each other, but the online hate can be really sad to see. And there's such a disparity between real life and online communication. So can we try and bridge that gap and really make all of our streets safer, not just our real streets, but our digital streets, make those more pleasant and more beneficial for humanity and society?
Emily, thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really do appreciate your time. Emily Jennings there talking to us about a community discussion that's taking place tonight that will discuss how to tackle online harms and social media. It takes place at St Heliers Town Hall. That's 7 till 9 tonight.
Going back to a time